Thank you for your patience. Hello, Loretta. Welcome to our webinar. So we are hosting our one of the series in our webinar events. So this is moving to Jamaica for beginners. And so what we'll be doing is talk about some of the things you need to do and be mindful of before you start your relocation process. So I am Mocha Mazel. I have been in Jamaica for 4 years now. I just recently had my 4-year Jamaica anniversary. I am from the United States originally, and I've been in Jamaica since July of 2020. And then we have our lovely other team member here, Miss Aisha White. She wants to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Aisha, or Mimi, as I like to be called. I have been in Jamaica for almost 16 years. Um, what else? I've been lost track. Yeah, I've been here for almost 16 years, and I'm part of BERJ. I'm one of the admins.
Yeah, been here for a very long time. So, um, again, what we'll be covering is some of those introductory steps. So, a lot of people get excited, they're ready to make the move, and just kind of just get ready to hop into it. But in order to make your relocation a more smoother process, we just want to cover some of the things that you may not necessarily have the insight for at the moment, or you may just not be aware of. So one of the things that we are going to talk about is understanding Jamaican culture. I'm going to get a little bit into some of the history and some of the cultural norms and some of the social etiquettes. We're going to talk about things you need to do to prepare for your move. So that will be residency options, banking, and then thinking about where you want to live in Jamaica. So because a lot of people experience Jamaica initially via tourism, um, unless you're a returning resident on the call, a lot of people have a one-sided perspective or understanding of what living in Jamaica may be like based on that experience. So we want to give you a more thorough understanding of what that looks like. And we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please write them down or let us know, raise your hand, and we'll try and answer them as soon as possible. We do have a Q&A session planned at the end if you plan to stay that long. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. So understanding Jamaican culture. So a little bit about the history and heritage of Jamaica. And so since Mimi is our Jamaican historian, we're gonna let her start off with that area, and then I'll kind of pick up on some of the key cultural norms and social etiquette that you may encounter in Jamaica.
Mhm. So Jamaica, just this year, well, Jamaica is what, about 64, 63, 64 years old, as an independent country. Prior to that, we were under British rule, and it has always been one of those places where some of everybody wants to be or wants to go, because of its location and proximity in the Caribbean. It has always been and be like a trading, a lot of trading post. A lot of things go from other Caribbean countries to Jamaica and then to the other countries in the West. Um, Let me see. So it's a mix of like Africans. The culture is a mix of Africans and Europeans. Um, and that's how Jamaicans are. And you can tell with the by the patois language, some words that we use are, from other countries, some of the customs, some of the foods that we eat are like just a nice mix of certain things and from um some of the other cultures that are here in Jamaica. So yeah.
Yeah, and so the official language, well, the language that you would primarily hear people speaking in Jamaica is patois, uh,
Mhm.
or we would like she said, it has its variations of English and African dialect and other things, and
Mhm.
but primarily those two. So communication styles can typically vary depending on the social settings and things that you're in. So sometimes, like a lot of times, encounter like a lot of cool demeanors, communication wise. Sometimes I can encounter some more aggressive demeanors. Otherwise, there are different sectors and ways in which people communicate more like you'll find in most places in the world.
Mhm.
So some of the social etiquette things, I'll let you get on the some of the cultural norms. But some social etiquette things. So I had to go to the airport the other day to collect my bag. And so me being my American self, I just walked into the lady. I was like, "Can you tell me where the place, the bag place is that I can get my bag?" And she looked at me, she was like, "Hello." I was like, "Huh?" She was like, "Good morning. How are you?" And I was like, "Oh, and I had to do my little things. And I was like, "Yeah, can you tell me what the bag place is?" So, some of the social etiquette can be very they have, I forgot what you call it, like a greetings and things. You have to give your greetings. Those things are considered etiquette and part of the culture and rude. And I guess if you don't, sometimes participate in it. But um, again, that was me and her. I'm typically, I was just like, I need to find my stuff, but that's kind of set me back a bit. Ways. And then some of the key cultural norms in Jamaica. A lot of people know Jamaica for its music, and for its food. So those things are very popular in Jamaica. And so Aisha will touch more insight into that, or what you can expect culturally by being in Jamaica.
But Jamaica is music everywhere. You'll find music in the store, in public transportation. Someone will randomly be walking down the street singing. You will find music everywhere. Um, what else? Let me see. Food. Food is in abundance.
Yeah.
Um, food is like a social, like we it's a social thing to have food, and people make sure that, like, the old hospitality, like you go to someone's house and they will
Mhm. Mhm.
feed you and feed you and continue to feed you and then send you home with food, whatever type of fruit that they have or vegetables that they just reaped or have extra of something, they will send you home with food. um and it's different styles of cooking. um but I I mean, Jamaican food is good. It's very good.
Yeah, and so some things that were new to me when I first came here was the 9 nights. Uh,
Hmm.
that's one of the cultural norms here. When there's a funeral procession, I still I have been to one, but I was kind of just thrown, so I really don't. I can't give you. I should probably give you more insight on what a 9 night is, but I have been collected and gone to somebody's 9 night, and I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, so the 9 night is a funeral procession or part of the funeral culture, and they have like a celebration, and they have the food. But what is the historical significance of that?
Basically you're putting it's like you're celebrating the life of a person. And so you do it on the ninth night, um, before the funeral.
Right.
So that's where that comes from. The whole history behind it, I'm not completely sure because people just do it, you understand? Because it's expected. So they either do like a 9 night or they call it a setup. And that with the setup, that's when the band come and it's just food going, rum going. Um,
It's a party. I
yes,
call it a
it's a
funeral
party.
party.
Yes, and then everybody get up the next morning and go to the funeral. So that's why funerals don't start on time.
Okay, so that's even though Jamaica has a lot of history and a lot of culture and a lot of things to fully experience and get to know about. We can't cover it all with the duration of this time. Um and you could probably get more of that on our YouTube channel and to just get more like, some of the cultural things that happen in Jamaica. We recently celebrated Emancipation Day and Independence Day, which was within the first week of August. So those are important holidays in Jamaica, obviously celebrating independence and emancipation. But what we're going to get into now is preparing for your move to Jamaica. So give me just a second. Let me get our presentation portion up. Okay, so what we are going to do, are we seeing this? Yes. Oh, let me see. Oh, we're trying to do it just. Okay, all right, so we're seeing this, right? Residency options in Jamaica. So giving just a brief explanation on what those are and what some of the qualifications are. All right, so Jamaica has a few residency options. If you're not a resident, if you don't have Jamaican lineage, you will likely be first visiting Jamaica on a visitor's visa. So a visitor's visa is a very short term, up to a 90-day stay in Jamaica. And it's for, again, short term tourism, business, family visits, things of that nature. So who qualifies for a visitor visa? Typically anybody who comes, especially if you're coming for on vacation or you're coming, just for a short stay, you're a visitor. So a lot of people most of the time have to have a return ticket, have to have your valid passport. If you travel to Jamaica, some of these things should be kind of standard knowledge, but just in case, this is the primary or the initial visa you will encounter coming to Jamaica if you are not of Jamaican lineage. Now, most people don't have to apply for a visa to come on a visitor's visa, but again, that may depend on your country and where you're coming from. But for the most part, from my understanding, the visitor visa is where you can just come to Jamaica. You have a period of up to 90 days where you can stay without having any type of formal residency. Okay. So if you come to Jamaica, you are coming on a visitor's visa. There's nothing, extra to do for that except you have up to 90 days to stay here when you initially arrive. So that is the visitor's visa. Okay, so the next option, again, these are for those of you who do not have Jamaican residency. We'll get into the other, if you are of Jamaican lineage, we'll get into some of that. The next option that you have is a work permit. So I am in Jamaica currently on a work permit through self-employment. But a work permit allows foreigners to work in Jamaica for a specific employer or for yourself. So who qualifies? This is a person who has a job offer from a Jamaican employer. How do you qualify? You must apply on behalf of the employer. Your requirements include your job offer. You need to have a job offer, a valid passport, and other relevant qualifications. So this is going to have a lot of different factors that you will need to consider if you are considering a work permit through an employer. One, you need to be mindful of what the pay is in Jamaica, and if that is something you are willing to either, decrease your pay or maybe increase, I don't know, wherever you're coming from. You need to be mindful of that. You need to be mindful of where you're going, what the working conditions may be. So again, a lot of people, when they decide to move abroad, they ask them, what kind of job can I get out there? So I'm like, hold your horses. Wait a minute before you go pack up everything. You need to have an understanding of what you're doing. So if you are coming through an employer, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but you have to be mindful that you are coming to a place where they likely have a pool of people for the most part. And you have to consider, you have to think about if they would want to sponsor a work permit, because you do have to go through the process and pay for it and all those things. If they would want to sponsor a work permit for you, when they have a pool of people here who are already, in need of jobs and things like that. So that's something to consider, and along with the pay, but that is an option, for you. So self-employment work permit, which is another option, is what I'm on. So this is for individuals planning to start or manage their own business in Jamaica. So if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner, or you thinking this is probably the better option for you if you're coming out here, a self-employment work permit will probably be a good option for you. You must have, and this is general, you're gonna go through a process because it is an immigration process, okay? You're gonna have, it's gonna be a time and a financial investment, okay? So you will need to have a business plan, you need to have proof of funds, you need to demonstrate how the business will benefit Jamaica, among a plethora of other things, all right? But this is the mind frame you need to be in if you are considering applying for a self-employment work permit through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security in Jamaica. So that is the office that you would be primarily in contact with, along with the Passport and Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, in Jamaica. So those are two options for you. You can try for a work permit if you can get one through an employer, or you can do a self-employment work permit. Okay, so temporary residence. So temporary residence would be the next step outside of a visitor's visa when you have residency here on a temporary basis. So let's say if you are in Jamaica on a work permit, you likely will be here on a temporary residence until you meet a certain standard or a certain amount of years. And then you can apply for permanent residency. So the temporary residence allows for a longer stay than a visitor's visa, and is typically for work, study, or family reasons. Who qualifies people who are not residents of Jamaica, don't have citizenship. You are working, you're studying, or you have family ties in Jamaica. So a lot of the things will overlap. You will need to have proof of employment, enrollment at an educational institution if you are coming here through school, family connection, all those good things, okay? You will need to be able to show financial stability, that you're going to be able to support yourself while you're here. And then permanent residency, which I'm applying for soon. Woo! Okay, so permanent residence. This grants the right to live in Jamaica indefinitely. Okay, they say permanent residency, but I'm just going ahead and claim my citizenship. Okay, so who qualifies? People who have lived in Jamaica for at least 3 years on a work permit or have a Jamaican spouse. Okay, and you will apply through the PICA office, and you will have to provide proof of residency, employment history, and financial stability. Okay, and so next up we have, if you are not doing the business or the work route and you have a Jamaican person that you are ready and willing to marry, okay, your next option would be, like Miss Aisha here, marriage to a Jamaican citizen. So if you are married to a Jamaican, okay, you can apply for a residency. And in order to qualify, you will need to have proof of your relationship, a marriage certificate, passport, and you apply through PICA. Now we have the retired person's visa. So a lot of people do come to Jamaica for retirement, after they done all they have to do out in the world, and want to come to Jamaica and relax and live on the beach and in the sand, okay? So if you are a retiree and you are looking to spend your retirement years in Jamaica, you can apply for the retired person's visa. So these are persons who are 55 and older with a guaranteed pension or income. You will have to show your proof of age, your position or your income, health insurance, and a valid passport. Okay, you will apply through PICA. So yes, if you are coming as a retired person, you have to show again that you are going to be able to sustain yourself here. How you're going to support yourself financially. Again, because you have to have certain permits in order to earn money in Jamaica legally. Okay, and then a student visa, if you're coming for school, you have to show financial support, a lot of the same things, okay? But you have to go through the university or the embassy to go through this route, I believe. Okay. And then you have the investor's visa. If you got a whole heap of money you want to come put in Jamaica. All right, you want to invest in Jamaican businesses or real estate. You will come show your proof of investment, your financial stability, and you will apply through JAMPRO, which is the Jamaican Promotions Corporation. Okay, so each residency option requires specific documentation and adherence to Jamaican immigration laws. You will need to consult with the relevant Jamaica authorities, okay, to ensure all your requirements are met. So when you go there, you initially apply, just understand it's going to be a process. It's not like you go fill out your form, boom, and they give you your work permit or your retirement visa or nothing. It's an immigration process, so you will be going through a process over a duration of time, depending again, how long it takes you to get everything together or, however the cookie falls in that regard. Okay. So if you are of Jamaican heritage and you are looking to come back, you are a returning resident. And a returning resident is someone who has lived abroad for an extended period of time and is ready to come back to Jamaica. Who qualifies someone who's lived abroad for at least 3 consecutive years. So how to qualify for a return as a returning resident, you have to show proof of Jamaican citizenship or former residency, evidence of the time that you lived abroad, and your intent to resettle in Jamaica, your application through PICA. So, I mean, of course, if you're coming back, you should, most people already have their things, but if you want to go, some people don't. So if you are looking to apply for like, was it conditional landing or, what's the name of it? Citizenship by descent. Okay, you have to have some type of documentation showing that you are Jamaican or your people are Jamaican to show PICA or show the offices that you're looking to work. Okay, that you're looking to do the route you're looking to apply. Okay, so if you are Jamaican descent, children, grandchildren of Jamaicans, have a birth certificate if possible, and a passport, and apply through PICA, and that will be the same for citizenship by the same thing. Okay, I think basically. They'll determine, when you go to PICA, what, you classify as, but again, be prepared to show your Jamaican heritage, parentage, birth certificates, etc. Your birth certificate and all those things in order to get that, your Jamaican passport or your citizenship by descent. So for each of these options, again, we'll let you know there's a process you're probably gonna have to go through. And you will have to consult with the relevant Jamaican authorities to make sure you get everything, you have, because things change over time. They may add things, they may remove things. I was shocked when I went into a bank and they was like, oh, you don't need a JP no more. I was like, what? So it's gonna be different. So make sure you go and you consult. So you get, and they'll take you through the process and all the forms and documentations. And okay, so do we have any questions as of yet?
And I also want you guys to be aware that it's just not a one, like you go in and then it's this, it like Mocha said, it takes time, and it also may take multiple visits to the office or offices.
Okay, so, I did this already. Okay, so, if there's no questions about the residency, we're gonna move on. And I think our timer thing may run out. We're on the unpaid version of Zoom. So if we cut off, just click the same link and get back on. We'll be here on the call. Okay, just in case it cuts off, don't fret. We'll be still right here waiting. You can just get back on with us. Okay. Okay, banking. All right, so important thing about moving abroad or being in the country, wherever you are, banking is gonna be something that you're gonna have to deal with and experience. Okay, and so we put together something for you to understand what some of the banking options in Jamaica are. Okay, so you have some commercial banks that are based here in Jamaica, and then you have that are Jamaican operated. There are also credit unions, but I'm not really quite sure. A lot of them I see, you have to be part of a certain organization. So
Mm-hmm.
they have any that are like open to the public, like we have how you have credit unions in other places. So they're not listed here, but I don't know if you have somebody that is for some type of organization, they have access to a credit union. I don't know what that looks like, but they're not listed here because I don't want people to think that's a general option. But commercial banks, you have NCB, Scotiabank, Sagicor, First Caribbean, International Bank, and you have JN Bank. And then the international banks that are from other places, but based here in Jamaica, they have bases here. We have a Citibank, you have the Bank of Nova Scotia, which is the parent company of Scotiabank. So what is needed to open a bank account in Jamaica? So you're gonna need your passport for non-residents and expatriates, okay? Um, if you are a Jamaican resident or you are returning to Jamaica and you have your Jamaican identification, from my understanding, you should be okay. But if you do not, you will need a valid passport to show your identification, driver's license, a national ID, and you will need a TRN. So a TRN is very important when living in Jamaica. It's kind of like what we would identify as a social security number. You need it to do everything, banking, getting housing, any government organization or thing you're trying to do, you're gonna need a TRN. So that's very important that you get. You can get one in person. I think some people have went through the process of getting one online. I don't know how effective that is, but you can try to apply for one online and see if it goes through. Or you can just go to the tax office if you're based here in Jamaica. So you will need a proof of address. So you will need a utility bill in your name. You're gonna need a lease agreement or something showing, where you're living or a rent receipt. Um, they may or may not inquire about a bank statement from another financial institution, and they may or may not want something from a JP. Again, like I said, my recent experience where I went to the bank, I didn't need one, but I don't know, because they all operate differently. Some may want a JP, some may not. Be prepared either way, just in case. So they may want, a letter or somebody reputable stating who you are and confirm your address and those things, okay? You're going to need to show proof of income, pay stubs, showing that you have income coming in. Some people may be required to provide a job letter from your employer, or employee verification. Again, they may or may not ask for bank statements showing income and payments from your employer or self-employed people. If you're self-employed, they may want you to show bank statements. And then tax returns or financial statements, depending on if you're a business owner, if you're self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
Reference letter, again, this is going to depend on the institution. So it may need to be something from the JP, Justice of the Peace, or a reputable person. I remember I was like, I don't know no doctors out here. I'm gonna go get this. I was like, I don't know what I'm about to do. But yes. And again, I think they are starting to kind of like lean off of that a little bit, but just be prepared again. Keep that in the back of your mind just in case. And then of course you will need the account opening forms and additional requirements for non-residents and expats. So some of them may want to see your identification. I mean, your proof that you are able to legally be in Jamaica, you have residency in Jamaica. A reference from a bank in your home country or something showing a bank from your home country, proof of your address in your home country, if you are employed in Jamaica, they may want a letter from your employer, basically to demonstrate your legitimateness of opening and operating a bank account. So again, it may seem like a lot, but you have to think, if Jamaica is a country that a lot of people visit, and people just willy-nilly want to come open a bank account, that can, create like a lot of hecticness and a lot of accounts that people don't use and things like that. So they have to be sure that you are coming there, you are really looking to be here and have money flowing through the bank and all that good stuff. You're using your account. So again, depending on the bank that you want to use, you can go to their website and hopefully it has the correct information there, but you would probably get your best insight and guidance by going directly to the bank and talking to someone. Okay. So some of them are really good about putting information on their site. Sometimes you may go there and be like, y'all didn't put any of this in. So our best bet is to just kind of just go there and talk to them directly and see what it is that you need, and just be prepared to come with things, and maybe they'll start your little trial or whatever, and then you can just, when you come back the next time, you have everything you need. Okay, where are we? All right, so we have one more minute till our little timer goes out. So any questions before we go out? Because
Yes,
yes.
yes. Would I be considered return resident? I do have my citizen by descent, do have my passport. But when I move here, as far as the customs, would I be considered return resident or no?
You say you have you're a returning resident, you have your citizenship by descent, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes,
Yep.
you be considered a returning resident.
Okay.
As long as your lineage and all those things are there and you are demonstrating, showing that you are of Jamaican descent, then yes, you'll be considered a returning resident. So yeah, just hop back on the call when this cuts off, and then we can continue with the next. Sorry about that. Okay, so did you have any other questions before we get started on the next part, or did you finish with your question?
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so now that we got some of those things out of the way, now we're going to talk about where you may want to consider living in Jamaica. So like stated previously, a lot of people who are visiting, or even people who live here, have experienced Jamaica from a particular perspective. So you will probably need some type of insight or some type of understanding of what the different parishes or locations in Jamaica has to offer to decide, which place is best for you. I know every time I go somewhere new, I'm like, oh, I want to live here. So, I'm all over the place. Like, I don't know where I want to be, but you will. Aisha is going to get a little bit more into about like the layout of Jamaica and some of the factors to consider when choosing a location. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the cost of living. So,
All right. So Kingston is the capital of Jamaica, capital city. Everything is there. Any and everything that you need is there. And it also has an excellent public transportation system. But also, like any urban area or capital city, it's about 1/3 of the country lives in this space. Um, so it's city there, real city. Now we have Montego Bay, which is in St. James, and it mirrors Kingston, but on a smaller scale. Every government office is usually a branch in Montego Bay. It's also the capital of tourism, and we have the airport is there too for the north side. For the north coast, the airport is there. So you have access to things, you can get things, but also again, because it's the next city, and also the capital of tourism. It's a lot of people packed into there. And so sometimes housing is hit or miss, both in Kingston and Montego Bay. And then everything else in between those two cities, people like to refer to it as country. Um, those are the smaller, this I don't want to even say smaller. Um, you have a mix of town and very rural areas. So that's where all the farms are. That's where the smaller towns are. But just because they're smaller doesn't necessarily mean that they usually might have an office here or there, like to conduct business, but it's ample housing, including modern housing, because they're doing a lot of developments. But it may be a little bit more difficult to get around on public transportation um in those areas.
Don't
And
have
then yeah, you're gonna
a
need a car or a reliable driver. But like you just coming to Jamaica, you might not be so road savvy. So that's it. So you might need to stay in an area that you can get around easily. Um, you a lot of people I know they want to work from home. So you have to keep that in mind when you're choosing a place, because we have rolling power outages. Sometimes the internet doesn't pick up so well in certain areas, like I find further inland or in rural areas that it's kind of spotty. Um, so you would need to be in the area where you can have access if it's you can have access to go somewhere else in case you need to use, charge up something if the power went out, if you don't have a generator that you brought with you, or things like that. Um, and then also I know people love the beach. So Kingston really isn't a beachy type of place. Like I said, it's urban, it's a city. Montego Bay, we have our beaches, but everybody usually flocks to the grill area for those who want to be on the beach. So I mean, we always say when you come visit and try to travel to these different parishes to see if you can perhaps live here, um, live in that particular area. Mhm.
Yep. So, like she said, there are certain factors and things you need to consider. So a lot of people will be looking online and they'll see something they like, they have no clue where it is. But
Uh,
actually, you somewhere off in what's a real rural place? Ain't no, you probably off in the Blue Mountains somewhere, and
right.
and you get all the way up in the mountains and you realize you ain't got no way of getting back down, or you don't really know how to maneuver the transportation system, and you're stuck, or you sitting out there waiting 2 hours for a taxi to come.
Or I know somebody was like they love 9 Miles where Bob Marley was born and raised. I'm like, Bob Marley left and went to Kingston for a reason.
So those are things to consider. But once you get settled and once you've been here for a while, you consider getting a vehicle. That may not be so much of a factor to you anymore because you can have your own transportation. Um, you will also need to consider your level of comfort or living places. So some places have, a lot of the amenities that some people are looking for. Typically, those come at a cost. So be mindful that some places may not. You may be kind of like in, kind of like bare bones situation. You get the basics, and that's up to you again, your comfort level and what you're willing to pay. And in regards to the cost of living, it's going to be depending on where you're going.
Mhm.
Honestly, we can give you an idea, but of course, if you're in Kingston or if you are in Montego Bay, expect rent and things to be more expensive, right?
Mhm.
It's the city. If you are in those areas, I don't know so much about the grill, but if you are in those concentrated areas, expect for things to be more expensive. Um,
Also, I forgot to mention the weather. The weather can vary. So, for instance, Negril is drier. It's a drier parish. Westmoreland is a drier parish in general. But then you have Portland where it rains almost every almost every day, or it's actually moister. And then we have St. Mary and St. Anne going towards Ochi, like around in the Ochi area, it has a tendency to be rainy and moist there. Then you have Mandeville. Mandeville is cool, and so is the Blue Mountains area, and in Manchester is real cool there. So you may need a light clo like light clo light like a light jacket and long sleeves and some jeans. Then
yeah.
you have Kingston where it's scorching hot.
It would be so funny coming from the cool Blue Mountains. Then as soon as I hit into Kingston, it's like, bam. It's like
Yes, yes.
night and day, night and day. Like,
Right. Even where I live at now, I live in Montego Bay. I live almost in a rural area. So I get all this breeze and I'm right by a river. So I get all this breeze and I have all these trees around and it's just real breezy. But when I go down into Montego Bay town, I can feel it like as I cross over and I'm coming down and I'm hitting up there by clock. I'm just like,
woo.
like I have to wind up the windows and turn on the AC because it's just like, no, no. Mm-mm.
So yeah, Jamaica has different climates depending on where you're interested in being. Like
Mm-hmm.
honestly, so those are something to consider. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had a heating blanket. I wish I had a heater. I meant to bring a heater back when I
Mm-hmm.
if I end up back in the Blue Mountains, I definitely will get some type of form of heating because I was up there cold a lot of the time.
Yes.
And I had a heating blanket and I would be cold. Like it would be really cold up there. So yeah, do not think the whole of Jamaica is just warm and sunny and hot all of the time.
Mm-hmm. And then after a while, after you be here for a while, your body regulates to the temperature of Jamaica and you will be cold, you will be hot, or you'll have your moments.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of the housing accommodations in Jamaica. So housing can be, I don't want to say it's hard to come by, but it depends on where you want to be and what type of living situation you want. Um, it may or may not be hard, for you to find something. So they have, in Kingston, they have a variation of accommodation types. They have townhouses, they have apartments. Um, you may find some homes for rent. I'm trying to think what else. Basically, in it, you have a various type of accommodations you can find. You will see a lot of like the split housing where it's like the houses is multiple units, but it's in one structure, one house structure. Not like an apartment, but it's like it may be two families or so living in that one house, but they have the splits. You will see a lot of those. Um,
Yeah,
so
so don't they call those half sides or something, half a side or half side? Because I
yeah,
think
half side of house
mm-hmm.
or bottom floor of house or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen I think you'll typically come into like the standard rental situation. Some places will want you to pay a deposit and then the first month's rent. I came across one place, they were like they want the whole year of rent. Um, I'm
Wow.
like, what? No, I can't do that. I'm like, who's doing that? Anyways, so again, it's gonna vary. It's gonna depend. It's not like where we can go into like a rental office until we can see an apartment complex. We go into the rental office and be like apply, do an application for a rental form. A lot of the apartments here and things are privately owned. They're owned by an individual person. They're renting it out to you. Um, so, like I said, it's going to be more of a process trying to find housing and accommodations out here, especially if you're not familiar with the lay of the land and you don't know kind of where to go. I like to recommend staying or doing Airbnb until you get more familiar and get more comfortable with things. So you have somebody you can stay with or whatever. But before you go and sign up for a place sight unseen, don't do that first of all. But try and see different areas and experience different areas first before you go about just going off of something that you may have seen online. And so tips for finding a place, they have realtors available. They have Keller Williams Realty, they have Caldwell Bankers. They have a lot of realtor agencies out here that may have to be your option again until you get familiar, you start meeting people, and you know, can ask somebody, hey, you know, anywhere some for rent, you know, that might be your situation until you are in Jamaica for a while and you start establishing those relationships with people. Right, but so like I said, in Kingston, at least you have public transportation. They have bus, taxi, Uber. They have a lot of transportation options in Kingston. I'm not sure about Montego Bay. And then they have buses that go from city to city and parish to parish. So you have options, but in regards to day-to-day stuff, the city areas will have the most available public transportation options to you. Driving in Jamaica, you have anything that they may need to know about if you're operating or driving a vehicle?
My thing is you need to know the road codes. Yes, we drive on the opposite side for than America and Canada. My thing is that's not the problem. The thing is that you need to know the road codes of Jamaica. You also have to watch out for potholes and cows and goats and people, narrow roads in the town part of the area. Also, what else? Rain, when it rains and it pours and you cannot see in front of you. And you also have to be reminded that at night it's extremely dark, not just a little dark, it's extremely dark and not well lit at all. And people like to walk out front the car in black clothes, but anyway.
So, yes, things to consider when operating a vehicle in Jamaica. So, if you're looking to purchase a vehicle in Jamaica, again, those options are going to vary. It's probably something that we will add on, but I don't know if we have anybody in here that will be going through the process initially at this point. But yeah, so we are opening the floor up for questions. So do we have any Q&A or any anything additional that you want to share or that you would want to know in regards to relocating to Jamaica on a permanent basis? Or something that you want to mention or talk about? And so if not, I'm just gonna go back through what we talked about. So an important thing to know is to understand Jamaican culture, understand the country that you're coming into in some capacity. You're not gonna know everything, but be prepared to be open and experience and learn how to be in a community with the people in which you are coming to live. Preparing for your move, so you need to understand the residency and the visa options, what's available to you and where you stand and what you are considering. The banking options, what you will need to do to start a banking relationship here in Jamaica. In regards to like making income, we do have a separate webinar that we're hosting where we're talking about how to support yourself financially in Jamaica. But a lot of people do when they are an expats, they typically resort to they're either working online or they're starting a business or they're operating a business locally in Jamaica. We talked about living in Jamaica, about where to live, some of the things to consider, climate, cost of living, some of the overviews of the different parishes in Jamaica, and what type of housing accommodations are available, and the transportation options available to you, depending on where you are. And yeah, So, anything else? Any more questions that you would like to know or want to ask?
Yes. What's a national ID?
The national ID will basically be, so it will be like a driver's license, or I think I've seen some people where they would just like, they will have some type of Jamaican identification if they don't have a driver's license. Because a lot of people don't drive, so they have some type of form of ID, stating who they are and that information.
It's the voter's ID. You would have to go to the electoral office in the parish that you're moving to. And that's how you apply for the national ID. And basically that ID gives you the right to vote. And it's also just a form of ID. Like when you're doing it proves your address, and then it also like when you're conducting business.
Okay, so once I get permanent housing, I could get the ID.
Yes, because what happens is the electoral office, when you apply, they will do a house visit.
Okay.
So you have to have an address in that parish at an address that they can come and see. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. I remember I was in the mountains and somebody came doing I was like, what? I don't know. I didn't know what they told me, but yeah, I thought it was like a census or something. They came to us and did like the ID thing, and they were asking me, and I was like, ma'am, I do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any other questions or so we are available online in a multitude of places. Our website is berjamaica.com. There you can go, you see what we have up currently is our maintenance page, but you can still find the links there. You can find the link to our community, which is berjamaica.men.co. You can find our Eventbrite page where we host events, and you will find our events there that we'll be hosting regarding helping you relocate to Jamaica. We have our guidebook there, the do's and don'ts of resettling in Jamaica. And then we also do personal one-on-one consults if that's something that you're interested in. So you'll find all of that information on our website at berjamaica.com. So in regards to some of the important offices that we mentioned, any type of something dealing with residency or getting your citizenship or permanent residency, you are or visas, you will be visiting the PICA office. They are based in Kingston. They have a location in Montego Bay, right?
Yeah,
PICA? Yeah.
it's Montego Bay, Kingston, Mandeville, St. Anne's Bay, and also St. Mary.
Right. So that will be your office that you will be frequenting often in regards to whatever you are trying to accomplish out here residency wise in
Mhm.
Jamaica. Um,
The Ministry of Labor is only one, and that's a month in Kingston. So that's where you have to go. That's if you're doing, if you're a foreign national, you have to go there to do your work permit, or even if you come up and do the marriage one, any type of residency for the foreigners, they have to go to the Ministry of Labor in Kingston. So that's also a reason why to pick where you live, choose where to live wisely.
Yeah, and I think again, you planning to be here, and you're planning on living here, you need to get yourself set up. I recommend being in Kingston or Montego Bay or wherever you can get to and from easily. Because that's again, going to be a hassle trying to figure out how you're going to get here. You're going to have a lot of appointments and things and papers and documents and all this stuff to be dealing with and
Mhm.
carrying back and forth. So, again, this is for those who may have to go through that process. Those who are watching later may not. So that's something to consider. Okay, so yes, that's it. Unless anyone has any more questions before we wrap up this session. Again, we have supporting yourself financially in Jamaica as an expat or returning resident happening soon. Let me find the exact date. It's gonna be this month, but we'll be hosting these periodically throughout the month. Every month. So, you know, if you want to catch the next one, that's fine. August 31st, supporting yourself financially in Jamaica as an expat or returning resident. Okay. So if that's it, thank you for being here. Thank you for attending. If you're watching later, thank you. Please, if you have any questions, email them to us or ask them in our community. That's probably the best way to kind of get like a more sense of community for when you're planning to come here, and also get your questions answered. berjamaica.mn.co. So if that is all, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for attending. I'm Mademoiselle.
I'm Mimi White.
And we are BERJ, Black Expats and Repats in Jamaica. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.